Hi! In this video I want to focus on the search function in Word, which you can find here. Find under the home menu. And this is a tool that is very useful when you are working systematically on improving your text. But my experience is that very few students actually use this tool. So I wanted to show you how you can use it and how you can use it very systematically. And it can actually help you a lot with improving the language in your text, because it obviously what it does is that it helps you to find words and expressions that you either want to remove or improve, and that could be for many specific different reasons. For example, maybe there's certain words that you tend to misspell and you want to get the correct spelling, and it's very hard to sort of skim through the whole text looking for those words, but you can use the search function to find them immediately. You can use the search function to find lexical teddy bears that you want to replace with more advanced, precise expressions. And last but not least, and what I'm going to focus on in this little video, how you can use it to make your language more academic and more formal. So if we just start by opening the tool, I use the shortcut, the keyboard shortcut, and you see that opens the navigation panel for me here. So then I can start searching for whatever I like, and the word I type in will be highlighted in the text. So let's say that I have, as I mentioned, spelling mistakes, and I know, for example, that I have a tendency to spell with like this. The spell checker in Word will not find that word because it's an actual word, so it won't correct it. It means wit, as in pinse, wit Monday, wit Sunday. Not a word that you use very often. You see that I haven't used this word in this text, but if I had, it would be marked in yellow. So it's a good idea, if you tend to make spelling mistakes, especially if you tend to make them in basic Word, make a list and just very quickly before you hand in your text, look up the incorrect spelling, the one that you usually, sort of the mistake you usually tend to make, and you can see it immediately if you have it or not. If it says no evidence or no example found, then you know that you haven't made that spelling mistake in your text. And then you can use it, as I said, to find lexical teddy bears. And of course you can go for like random searches and see if big, no matches for that. All right, get is another lexical teddy bear, no matches. But I don't recommend sort of random searches for lexical teddy bears. I recommend that you run your text through a text analysis tool, and I've made other videos about how to use that, but those tools will give you your high frequency words. So for example, if you're writing a text about music and you run your text through a text analyzer, you'll see, oh, I've used the word music 29 times in my text. Then you can go here and you can look up the word music and it will be highlighted in the text. So I don't recommend really random searches unless there are, again, certain words you know that you tend to use a lot. Then of course you can type them in and see if they're in the text. But it will be more strategic if you first run your text through a text analysis tool online. There are several of them, so look at one of my other videos for how to do that. But then the last thing I wanted to focus on is how you can use it to make your language more academic and more formal, because formal or academic language is, there are very many things that characterize such a language. So, and here I've made a list of what you should look for in your text, things you should avoid very often, and how I've marked in green here how you can use the search function to actually do this. So for example, if we're using an academic or formal language, we tend to use a depersonalized language, which means that we tend to avoid I, me, myself, avoid you to refer to the reader, or avoid sort of saying in my opinion or I believe, things like that. So I can very quickly then, now to search for I is a bit tricky because you see it highlights every time the letter is used, but at least it helps me to sort of very quickly skim. It's easier to skim through my text, and I realize, nope, it's all of these I's are in a word. It doesn't refer to I. I can see if I've used you, and then you see, okay, I have used you a lot here. Now, this is a text about vocabulary learning strategies, and it's sort of very instructional. So obviously there's a reason why I've done that. But if I wanted to make the text more academic, this is something that I would have to address because I do talk directly, as it says here. I avoid you to refer to the reader. And that's what I'm doing in this text. And opinion, you could search for opinion or thoughts like that to just make sure that you haven't written opinion, in my opinion. And there are 0 results for opinion. So that's one thing that you could just look at these, look for the things that shouldn't be in your text. And you shouldn't use first person pronouns like I, we, me, myself, and so on. And you should avoid you to refer to the reader or people in general. Then it's a characteristic of academic texts that they use precise linking words, and many students you very often rely on and but, so that's a possibility that at least but there are so many other words we can use instead. And here you see I have 2 results, but and but. So for example here I could have said, however, you still need to learn words explicitly. So I could use however, which is a more advanced academic linking word. And here you may know what a word means, but not how to use it correctly all the time. So to replace but here, I can't just say, you may know what a word means, however, not how to use. That wouldn't work. So I would have to rewrite it a little bit. Maybe I could say something like, you may know what a word means, despite not being able to use it correctly all the time, and so on. So often if you want to replace but with another linking word, you have to do some rewriting of the sentence. You can't just put another linking word in there. So you have to know what you're doing, obviously. So you have to check. Use dictionaries to check how to use other linking words and so on. So that's one way you can do it. Again, it's a characteristic of academic language that it's very specific when referring to dates and figures, and the key here is to avoid like vague expressions. A lot of, many, a bit. Now this is a word like we often have to quantify things. So this is very typical that we write a lot of. So if I go back to my text again, I can say a lot. I don't have to write the whole expression. And then you see that I've used it twice. Already know a lot of words. So this should be avoided. I should have to find a more, for example, I could say you already have an extensive vocabulary. For example, that would be a more advanced academic way of saying it. And reading and listening a lot, again, I would have to find another way of quantifying it that would be considered more academic. So just very, also, we should avoid sort of very angry, very happy. I don't know if I've used very in this one. No matches. But whenever you're using very in front of an adjective, you should try and find a more precise expression. And then there are many other ways we can do it as well, but I would also, this one is important when we're trying to use formal language, is that we should avoid abbreviated forms. So I don't have to search for all kinds of abbreviated forms, because I know that when I use a contraction or abbreviated form, but I want to use the apostrophe. So I can just search for the apostrophe, and you'll see here that I've said you'll. So I should definitely sort of rewrite this to you will need, or actually I can also say you need to read, to listen. So just search for the apostrophe. Of course, that requires that you do use the apostrophe when you're supposed to use it. Of course, if you've contracted a word without using the apostrophe, if I just written you'll, but then you see often then you'll get the grammar check will help you with that to insert the apostrophes. And my experience is that most students do insert the apostrophe when you're supposed to, when you have a contraction. So those are some examples of how you could look or use the search function to actually find those things that you know that you should avoid. And the more you know about your own mistakes or your own tendencies, the better it is. So it's a good idea to write sort of lists of words that you know you use a lot, that you want to avoid, or make a list of spelling mistakes that you want to improve, and so on, so that you could to target what you really need to work on, because it doesn't really help you if you just start looking for random words. But as I said, if you use text analyzer to figure out which words is it that I repeat the most, and then you use the search function in combination with that, then it becomes more specific. And also there's a vocabulary checker. I've made another video about that, which you can use, which will tell you which words in your texts are more academic and which words are more conversational. And then you can use the search function to find those informal conversational words and try to replace them with more advanced ones. But that requires systematic work, and it requires quite a lot of work, because you have to use dictionaries and all of these things. But if you haven't used the search function actively when you're proofreading and trying to improve your text, I hope that I've shown you that it can be used to improve spelling and improve the vocabulary and make the language more academic and more formal.